Aber was wären denn zum Beispiel wirklich Werte, die absolut gelten? Wie bestimmt man das? Macht man das demokratisch? Die Mehrheit ist dafür, dass Personenwürde ein Wert ist. Wie macht man das?
It's a very difficult question, as I've said, but it's not up to me to answer it. It's up to you to answer it as well. It's up to all of us to answer it. It's up to religious people to answer it. What I've demonstrated is that it doesn't come from religion. So we all have to sit down together and try to work out where it does come from. Now, there are things like the golden rule. Do as you would be done by. Do unto others as you would that they would do unto you. That's ancient. That appears in most religions. It appears in a secular moral philosophy. It's a philosophical point of view, and it's one of several which we can all sit down and agree would be a good thing. We want to live in the kind of society where people be nice to each other, where people do to us what we would, where people do to each other what we would wish. So we all have this shared common task of not only being good to each other, but trying to work out where that goodness comes from. Secular moral philosophers have been doing that for centuries, and we can read them. The only point I keep trying to stress is that it's a problem that we all share, because religion most certainly is not the answer. Not only should it not be the answer, but actually it isn't the answer.
Das verstehe ich schon. Ich möchte auch gar nichts dagegen sagen. Es ist eine ernst gemeinte Frage. Wie machen wir das? Ja. Also ich höre jetzt, dass Sie zum Beispiel Diskursethik für wahrscheinlich ein sinnvolles Instrument halten.
Well, I think that Darwinian natural selection may give us some sort of origin for it. I think there's some evidence that from our ancient Darwinian heritage we have something that could be turned into the golden rule. So part of it comes from there, but I think that's only a small part of it. I think a lot more of it comes from cultural development, cultural evolution, historical changes. As we go through history, we gradually change. Not so gradually, I mean, well, not so slowly anyway, actually quite fast. I think it is quite remarkable how this, what I call the shifting moral zeitgeist, is a real phenomenon. I mean, if you go back, say, 100 years from now, you would find racism absolutely endemic in the whole of Europe. So it came to the fore with Hitlerism in Germany, but it was very, very strong in Britain and France, Ireland. It was strong in Europe generally. There was an anti-Semitism, which was pretty much universal. There was an black people were regarded as sort of quaint and rather childlike, and to be patted on the head. And nowadays we've completely lost that. So we've advanced, we've progressed. I am fascinated by where that progression comes from. It's a very, very real phenomenon, and we all need to try to understand why it is. I mean, let's take another example. In the recent wars, like the two Iraq wars, with very sophisticated weapons, there was very, very strong concentration on the need to avoid killing civilians. Now, it didn't always work, but there was a lot of concentration on building really smart weapons that only hit military targets, very sophisticated weapons that and if they accidentally hit civilian targets, it was a tremendous political uproar. Go back to the Second World War, and you have carpet bombing of Dresden, of Coventry. People didn't give a damn about civilians. It was accepted that civilians were fair game. That is a major shift in the moral zeitgeist, and it's that we, both of us, all of us, need to try to understand, because it's in a way very encouraging.
Gibt es so Vorbildgestalten, religiöse oder nicht religiöse, die da auch helfen können? Also ich bringe jetzt trotzdem das Beispiel Jesus oder Buddha, oder es müssen nicht unbedingt religiöse Personen sein, aber so, an denen man sich auch orientieren kann?
I think that it's always good to look at historical figures that one admires and to have great moral teachings, and Jesus and Gautama Buddha would be two of them. Confucius would be another. Mahatma Gandhi would be another. Martin Luther King would be another. Albert Schweitzer would be another. There are quite a few admirable characters. I just tossed off a few like that. I mean, we could mention Bertrand Russell, among more secular, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson. You can certainly look among the great philosophers and thinkers of the past for role models, but they were, of course, of their time, and so even they would be left behind by the shifting moral zeitgeist.
Sie haben einmal gesagt, ich fand das interessant, Sie haben gesagt, ich glaube, das war so in einer Radioshow, wenn Sie jetzt nur eine begrenzte Anzahl Musikstücke auf eine Insel mitnehmen könnten, dann wäre eines davon sicher die Arie Mache dich mein Herz rein. Das ist eine Arie aus Bachs Matthäus-Passion. Und da habe ich mir schon die Augen gerieben und gesagt, warum jetzt ein religiöses Werk?
Beautiful music. You might as well say, how can you read fiction when you know it's not really true? Fiction can be very, very moving. As it happens in the case of Bach, it's the music that I find moving, and the words I find less moving. But even if the words were moving, that wouldn't mean that I thought them true. I can be moved by a novel, by a fiction, by a play, by a film. I don't have to believe it's true.
Nein, natürlich nicht. Aber jetzt gerade im Fall von Bach, wäre Bach ein Atheist gewesen, hätte er wahrscheinlich diese Musik nicht komponiert.
If Bach had been an atheist, he might have written the evolution oratorio. He might have written the dinosaur cantata.
Aber wäre das auch solche Musik gewesen?
It might have been even better.
Ich meine das jetzt irgendwie gar nicht lächerlich, sondern Bach hat am Ende der meisten Kompositionen die Buchstaben S, D, G geschrieben, also Soli, Deo, Gloria. Er hat wirklich zur Ehre Gottes komponiert. Und Sie sagen, ja, früher, da waren halt die Künstler, die mussten ja von irgendwas leben und die Kirchen waren die besten Arbeitsgeber. Natürlich haben sie es auch für Geld gemacht, aber glauben Sie nicht, dass es also dieses Gefühl für etwas, das einen selbst übersteigt, Musik zu machen oder eine Kirche zu bauen oder was immer, dass das doch die Leute zu Werken angespornt hat, die sie vielleicht jetzt in einem ganz säkularen Kontext nicht zustande gebracht hätten?
Very possibly. I mean, I'm not for a moment denying that Bach was a devout Christian. Of course he was. Bach lived before Darwin. How could he not be a devout Christian? It's ridiculous to suggest that. No, of course Bach was genuinely moved, and of course religion does genuinely move people to produce great works of art, great music, great ceilings to chapels, great stained glass windows, great poetry. There's no question about that. That doesn't make it true. And moreover, who knows what Bach and Handel and Beethoven might have produced if they had modern science as inspiration to work from. It could have been even better.
Vielleicht. Wir kommen bald schon zum Schluss unseres Gesprächs. Ich möchte den Kreis schließen, indem ich doch nochmal auf die Schöpfungslüge zu sprechen komme. Jetzt einfach so als Gedankenspiel, gibt es eine Vorstellung davon, wie sich die Evolution weiterentwickeln wird? Also man hat ja manchmal, wir wissen heute, wir sind natürlich nicht der Endpunkt der Entwicklung und es ist auch nicht auf den Menschen zugelaufen, aber wie geht das weiter? Können Sie da zum Schluss etwas dazu sagen?
No, indeed. It's very important to understand that there never is an end. It goes on because the evolution is not a ladder advancing towards man. Evolution is a branching tree, a branching bush, and there are millions of ends so far, and each one of those ends so far may go on, just the way a tree does go on. And so you could ask that question of any one of those things. You could say, what's going to be the future of kangaroo evolution? What's going to be the future of warthog evolution? If you're specifically asking the question, what's going to be the future of human evolution is probably rather unusual in that humans have become so detached from the cutting edge of natural selection. We are now so cushioned, feather-bedded by medical science. It's got rather hard to die young. And so the survival of the fittest has a less urgent ring to it. Most of us survive long enough to reproduce. So human evolution is a rather special case. If you say, what's the world of life going to be like in 10 million years' time, in 20 million years' time, we can sort of answer that by looking back at what happened previously. So when the dinosaurs went extinct, which was 65 million years ago, nobody could have foreseen what was going to happen in detail, but they could have foreseen that the shoes of the dinosaurs would have been filled by something else. It turned out to be mammals. Perhaps we couldn't have foreseen that. It turned out to be mammals who stepped into the shoes of all the different kinds of dinosaurs. So the same range of carnivores and herbivores, large, medium and small carnivores, large, medium and small herbivores, etc. That's as far as I would go in predicting. In 10 million years' time, there may well be an extinction of most of the life forms that we see today. There may be no humans, no lions, no elephants, no rhinoceroses, no cats. But there will be something which fills the same roles. It'll be, in a way, the same play, but with different actors.
Richard Dawkins, ich danke Ihnen ganz herzlich für das Gespräch.
Thank you very much.